Joining us to expand the conversation is Mpumi Tyikwe, who's CEO of at Sasria, to discuss risk management, institutional preparedness, and the lessons other universities can take from the situation. A very good evening to you. Thank you so much for your time and welcome.
Thank you, Susan Paul. Good evening to you and to your viewership.
Perhaps let's start here as we try get a sense of the risk assessment. What are the biggest risks universities face when student protests escalate to the point of a campus shutdown? And how can universities ensure that they protect students and staff while also safeguarding infrastructure and property?
Well, this is nothing new, Susan Paul. I mean, this speaks to the way universities in South Africa are funded. And that is the biggest problem that we are faced with. I mean, you can trace back this matter to 2008 when we had fees must fall within the student community. And then we had the NSFAS being set up by government. And you'll have seen over the years that the funding to NSFAS has increased considerably. In the budget speech in February now, 2026, the Minister of Finance allocated close to 52 billion rands towards NSFAS and also allocated about 51 billion as a direct grant to universities. However, you'll have learned that NSFAS has got a shortfall of about 15 billion rands to fund students in this current financial year. And NSFAS covers about 48% of the students that are in our tertiary institutions, be it public universities or the technical universities like the one we are speaking about now. I believe really the key issue to try and get on top of the problem when decision makers in these various institutions, when you make some of the decisions, for instance, what is triggered this at CPUT this time around, a couple of things. The university leadership put up a plan for financial recovery. Within that plan, there's a requirement that students must pay 7,000 rands in a registration. That was the first thing. There are a couple of other things where students have got outstanding debt, they are unable to get their certificates, or graduate, so their results are withheld, they can't get jobs. There are others like university accommodation, and you can imagine, I mean, the cost of living, cost of accommodation in Cape Town is quite expensive. So when university leadership makes these sort of decisions and so on, I think there should be awareness that this is likely to lead to protest. When the Minister of Finance announced the budget at the beginning of the year, various institutions went into protest for the very same reasons.
Yes.
CPUT is not on its own. University of Fort Hare is currently also having some form of protest. Even last year, this time, the University of Fort Hare had similar protests, which led to us getting a claim close to 450 million rands. And the University of the Free State was also going through the similar thing. So your main question is, how can universities prepare themselves for this? First and foremost is that the university leadership and the student leadership should be aware or be conscious of the consequences of the decisions that they are making.
Yes.
The second thing is obviously consultation. It's not easy to be a leader of a university institution, given all the competing needs with limited resources. But these moments require leadership where you are patient, you are honest, you are transparent, and you are willing to engage with the stakeholders and be clear as to what the challenges are and what the proposed solutions are, and make student leadership be co-creators of that particular solution.
Yes,
if
because,
you do not get
pardon
that,
the interruption, as we perhaps just observe some of the developments, having listened to the SRC at CPUT calling for an investigation into financial management at the institution, and of course raising concerns like ones you've mentioned, and those also talking to safety of student residences. What do you believe are some of the early warning signs that student protests may be moving from what is a lawful protest into a potentially destructive or even criminal activity?
Look, it's that's a difficulty of my job.
Yeah.
Is that Sasria we cover risks where it's underpinned by human behavior. You can't exactly predict when the students or the human being is going to react or how they are going to react in a particular way. But for me, I believe that the starting point is that you do know that certain decisions are gonna encounter some form of resistance. So the early sign for me is when you see, such decisions be not widely consulted, and secondly, if there is wide consultation, they are not accepted. Let me just play back to the University of Fort Hare incident last year, not the current one. One of the big no-nos that we know, in student leadership is that the university leadership cannot impose the student leadership on students. So we had a scenario at the University of Fort Hare where the university leadership handpicked who should be in the SRC and did not follow democratic processes to elect those leaders. So you immediately know that this one is going to attract a problem. Let me go further and give you an example, for instance, which does not involve students, about decision making that trigger protest, and where it's not popularly accepted by the various stakeholders. We had a situation, for instance, in Kenya some 2 years ago, where the government tried to increase taxes, and the community basically protested, and then the government had to reverse those plans. You are seeing CPUT reversing their document to do financial recovery, which indicates to me there was some form of a misstep in the way that they tried to implement those things. Having said all of that, I mean, we do know that protest in South Africa is a legal form of protest. It's widely accepted by, it's accepted by the Constitution. I think also the student leadership has got a role to play. We cannot go on and destroy infrastructure whilst we are protesting. There is no need for it to be violent, because the very same money that's going to be used to fix the damage to the infrastructure. I mean, at the University of Fort Hare, the students destroyed 10 buildings. It's going to take about 450 million rands to get those buildings going again. That money could have been used in other means to assist the very same students in the protests as well. So I think we need to strike this balance when we protest in South Africa, that it does not turn into something that's violent, does not turn into something where you have a destruction of property, which is what we have seen at the University of Fort.
Thank you very much for sharing that insight. Striking a balance, a very important piece of the puzzle. There is no need for violence and destroying infrastructure in the wake of student protests. Speaking there to Mpumi Tyikwe, who's CEO at Sasria.